So this is the little video that I'm putting together for you for printing your reduction print. This is the drawing on the block that I'm going to be working on, and it's right now drawn in color pencil. My first step is to remove my whites. So the very first layer you're going to remove are the whites. So I'm going to start first with the eyes, and then I'm actually going to free carve away the whites that I have as highlights in my image that I'm working from. And what I mean by free carve, and I used this word the other day when I showed you the image I was working on, I said I free carved it. What I mean by that is that I haven't gone through and created a moat around areas that I want to have as image area. I'm just carving straight with my tool in the areas that need to have line, texture, and the different colors coming through. So for instance, if your first color was actually a yellow, you should have already printed your block without doing any carving with just pure yellow, and now you would be carving away everything you want to remain yellow in your print. So this is the block after the first carving rolled up with the very first color. After printing this, I'll have white on my paper and then this light cream color, this sort of light yellow color. And you can see that I'm using the same type of registration system that we used for the wood block. So I'm going to print this and then go from there. So this is the print right now. It's really hard for the camera to capture it, I'm afraid, but you can see the different levels that I've carved away. Like here, it's kind of hard to see, but there's like white, and then there's another yellow, and then there's the yellow around it. So the yellow that this yellow that's on the surface everywhere is the yellow right now that I'm going to carve away to retain that yellow in certain places in the next layer. So again, it's a reduction, so to keep this yellow in some places I must now carve that away from the block, which is what I'm about to do. Now you can see that I have carved away my next layer, so I'm going to roll it up and print it. See that layer that I've just printed? And I'm getting a little bit of, here you see a little bit of the pencil coming through that I have, but I'm not really concerned about that because I'm going to have this as a dark border, so it should be okay. The reason it's happening is because it's a dark pencil and my colors are still light. To avoid that, I could re-clean the block and then clean it with like an alcohol, which should remove that. So now I'm going to print the rest of my edition and then carve out my next color. I just went ahead and printed another layer, and now you can start to see that the layers are starting to build up dimensionality. There's starting to be some differences between the different layers, like down here. And you can see too that I'm getting a lot of the texture from the linoleum itself. I'm not worried about that, I kind of like that. I'm printing this by hand, and if we were printing it on the press, then that may not be so evident. But again, I quite like that, and it's something which I'm happy with. So, like you just saw, this is where the print is right now. And the last color I put down was this yellow ochre color. So now my next layer that I'm going to want to print is going to be a light pink. So I need to now carve away everything I want to retain as this yellow ochre, and prepare then to print on top of the block after I've carved away the yellow ochre layer to print my light pink. So right now I'm going to take my block and sort of just isolate with the color pencil the areas that are going to remain yellow ochre, and then carve those away and then roll the whole block up in light pink. I want to show you that because my brayer is smaller than my block, that I'm going to get lap marks created by the roller on the block. And what you want to do is you want to continue to roll out the block, and in our case, to do that in multiple directions, and that will help to smooth out those lap marks that are created by the brayer. Because of the way that the image is made here as a relief, you're not necessarily going to create an offset image by rolling over your image in different directions. So it's safe to roll in multiple directions because the image doesn't tend to offset. Here you see me using my registration key. I'm going to place the block in the key, and then I will go ahead and print it for this color. The pink that I just made is obviously going to be affected by the ochre underneath, but now that I've printed the pink, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next darkest color.